There is a specific kind of person in Hollywood that the industry never quite knows what to do with. Not the ones who chase fame. Not the ones who build brands and cultivate images and make sure their name stays visible at all times. The ones who do the opposite. Who disappear between projects. Who give performances that make audiences uncomfortable in ways they cannot immediately explain. Who choose roles that most actors would decline and then disappear into those roles so completely that the person underneath becomes almost impossible to find. Jennifer Jason Leigh is that kind of person. And the way she handled the three things that define most lives in public: fame, marriage, and loss, tells you more about who she actually is than any interview she ever gave. She was born Jennifer Leigh Morrow on February 5, 1962 in Los Angeles. Her father was Vic Morrow, an actor who was working steadily in Hollywood throughout her childhood. Her mother was Barbara Turner, a screenwriter. She grew up inside the industry. She understood from a very early age what it actually looked like from the inside rather than the outside. That understanding would shape every decision she made once she began working herself. Her first significant role came in 1982 in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. She was 19 years old. The film became a cultural landmark. Her performance as Stacey Hamilton, a teenage girl navigating relationships and growing up in ways that felt genuinely real rather than scripted, was noticed by audiences and critics alike. She was not the most famous person in that film, but she was one of the most remembered. What she did next surprised people who expected her to follow the obvious path. She did not chase the roles that would make her the most recognizable. She chased the roles that interested her most. The difficult ones. The uncomfortable ones. The ones that required her to go to places most actors preferred to avoid. The fame that came with her career in the 1980s and 90s was something she treated with a wariness that confused the industry around her. She did not avoid press entirely, but she was never comfortable with the machinery of celebrity. The interviews, the profiles, the constant visibility that Hollywood expects from its working actors. She gave enough to satisfy the professional requirements of her career. She kept the rest of herself private in a way that the industry found difficult to categorize. People who worked with her described the same thing repeatedly. She was completely present on set, completely committed to whatever role she was playing. And then she went home and that was the end of it. There was no performance outside of the work itself. No carefully managed public image. No brand. Just the work. And the work was extraordinary. In 2001, she married Noah Baumbach, a film director whose work carried the same commitment to uncomfortable honesty that defined her own career. They had one son together, Romer, born in 2010. The marriage ended in 2013. Jennifer Jason Leigh has never given a detailed public account of what happened or why. She has mentioned the divorce in interviews, briefly, factually, without the kind of emotional disclosure that generates headlines. She said what needed to be said and nothing more. That restraint was not indifference. Anyone who has watched her work closely enough understands that she is not someone who lacks the capacity for deep feeling. She has entire films built around her ability to communicate things that most people find impossible to put into words. The restraint was a choice, a deliberate one. She decided that the end of her marriage belonged to her, not to the public, not to the industry, not to the profile writers who would have been grateful for the details. The loss that shaped her most deeply came earlier. In 1982, the same year Fast Times at Ridgemont High was released, her father Vic Morrow was killed in a helicopter accident on the set of Twilight Zone the movie. He was 53 years old. Jennifer was 19. She has spoken about his death carefully and rarely. What she has said suggests that losing him at that age, at the exact moment her own career was beginning, created a specific kind of grief that does not resolve cleanly. The grief of losing a parent before you had finished knowing them, before the relationship had reached the stage where you understood each other as adults. She carried that with her into every role she chose afterward. Some people think that is an exaggeration, that actors bring themselves to their work and that is simply craft. Watch her work again after knowing that. Then decide.